Well, there's no sugarcoating it that the semen retention journey is not going to be sunshine, rainbows, lollipops, and sugar and spice and all things nice all the time. We're going to go through a lot of different kinds of trials, errors, and learning experiences while we're on the semen retention journey. And that is why I've titled the video for today, Peace is on the Other Side of Brutality with Semen Retention. Now, what do I mean by this exactly? It's that in the early stages of your waning of PMO, which for anyone that is not aware, PMO is corn. I'm not going to say the actual word, but corn, masturbation, and orgasm. And if you are doing like PMO, almost said that word for a second. You are doing PMO of any kind, it's going to affect your spirituality in one way, shape, or form or another. Now, if you're in a long-term relationship, and which is the only time I think you should be having intercourse, by the way, I don't condone, I'm not like, this is not a channel where we condone one night stands or friends with benefits or situationships or any of that kind of BS. We're not doing that here. We're going to do things right now. And you're going to be doing things the right way if you're on semen retention or if you're celibate. If you're a woman watching this and you're just curious about the topic, then the equivalent would be for you to be on some form of celibacy where you're not playing with the toys. You don't got the batteries going next to your nightstand every night. You've got things that are actually going on in your life, and you've actually got something that is worth living for. Now, a lot of the times people don't have things worth living for, and that's a really sad thing to learn about. Like, it wasn't really an occurrence to me until I grew older how many people live just to die. They sincerely live just to make it through to the next week. And then they make it through the next week. And then they make it through the next week. And it's a constant repetitive cycle in which they never really grow beyond something. And in my experience, even the high scholars, like I've known a lot of different kinds of professors and a lot of different kinds of really intelligent people. And even at startups and everything like that I've communicated with and I've spoken to, I've gone to dinner with some of them just as like a business opportunity and just like seeing what they're about. They're really smart. Like these people are very, very smart. However, it's almost like their intellect blinds them to their spirituality. And they don't put themselves through enough hardship internally. They know how to get through hardship externally. And this can go the same for people that are working out. Like I know people at my gym that I go to currently. Phenomenal shape. Like very good shape. They go to shows. They participate in different forms of bodybuilding and some of the women there are just like incredible human beings as far as like the human body is concerned. But then if you ever hear them talk or you talk to them, you think to yourself like where are you? Like you're here but you're not here. And that's kind of the same situation that I was in with a lot of the scholars and the very intelligent people that I've met in the past. I've met a millionaire at one point, and he was a person that wasn't as intimidating as I thought he would be. He was actually a very just straightforward person, and he just didn't have time for BS. And it really showed me just how much they value time, like how much the person that is actually in a pursuit of something more than themselves actually values their time. But again, I still had this feeling of like them not being in touch, this man that's a millionaire not being in touch with his spirituality. And I think a lot of the times it's because people don't know about semen retention, or they don't know about celibacy. And they, I genuinely believe, because self-preservation is the lowest form, or the deepest form, I should say, not the lowest, the deepest form of the biology that we have. And then the sexual instinct is the second deepest. I genuinely think that if we were to have a desexualization of our own minds and our own selves, it would be like we would have a world that was so productive. I don't even know if we can imagine how that would really look until it actually happened. And again, I'm not saying that if you're in a long-term relationship, you're not supposed to like have intercourse and sex. That's not what I'm saying. If you're in a long-term relationship, I think you can have as much of that time as you want, because you're in a long-term relationship with that person and you are committed to that person, and you are actually seeking something with deeper meaning. And that's exactly what I think everybody should be striving for. But I don't think you should just give it up so easy, or you should just show yourself off all the time. Like, a lot of the times people's legacy is just wanting to be seen, or wanting to feel like they can say something. But here on this channel, that's not going to be our legacy. We're going to actually say something, and we're going to actually do something. Our legacy is about pursuing excellence in mind, body, and soul. That's our legacy here on this channel. That's the kind of change that we're looking to embark on in this life. And so the reason I'm giving so much of a background here is to kind of set the stage for why peace is on the other side of brutality. What do you think all of these different kinds of people that I've just talked about have in common? Apart from, like, because I mean, I've kind of mentioned it already, but they don't have that sense of introspection. They can introspect and they can self-discipline, but they don't exactly know how to have introspection. Even a lot of military people that I've met, highly disciplined individuals, they do know a lot, and they've obviously made a very great impression on the society that they live in, and they know what they're doing to a large degree. But there's only been a few military people that I've seen that genuinely have the kind of introspection needed to be a true warrior. And that is one of the coolest things to me. Like, I have so much respect for people that genuinely can introspect, that genuinely can live a life that is fulfilling and that involves critical thought and with God as well. Because I think a lot of the times, even though I would say that there are people in the business world as well that I've met that they're very successful people, but they don't have God. And so it's almost like money to them is God. And they're not always aware of this themselves. Like, they're aware that they are working hard and they want money and they want this and they want that, and they can actually get it too, and they're very smart. Again, they're very intelligent people, but they're also absent inside themselves. And that's why they're here, but they're not really here. And that's what all of these different kinds of people have in common. And so when you're going through, specifically in the early stages of semen retention, you're going to have these kinds of challenges where you're starting to notice how empty so many people are, and even yourself. You might be noticing just how empty yourself is until you start to understand how to fill up your own being. And that's only by source. You can only do that with the source of creation. You may not understand that that's what it is, but that is what it is. Where else are you coming from? Where else are you going? What is the boundary between you and the world? Where exactly is the boundary? Now you can say, like, for example, I can hold this cup. I can touch the glass. I can drink the water. And I can feel the sensation of the water go down into my body. But where exactly is the boundary? Really think about this question. Really ponder it, because it may seem like a silly question to some of you, but then to others, they're going to be thinking about, what exactly is a boundary? And I'm not talking about boundaries like in relationships. I'm talking about boundaries between physical things. Because obviously a boundary in a relationship is something completely different. And that's an entirely spiritual and emotional situation, setting a boundary like that is. And that's part of the brutality of the semen retention journey, is realizing that a lot of the times you've actually never told yourself no as much as you need to tell yourself no. And that can be a very difficult thing to learn. It can be a very challenging thing to accept, is you need to learn how to tell yourself no. That's part of self-discipline, but that's also part of the internal journey of spirituality. And that can be very difficult. It can be brutal. It can be very, very brutal. And if you're not careful, you're going to like kick your own ass into some other place you don't want to be if you do not tell yourself no, or know how to tell yourself no. And you'll also begin to realize as you're going further along in the journey that some of the temptations can be much, much stronger. Much stronger. In fact, me myself, over the past couple weeks, even the last month in general, has been a very temptuous, temptuous? I don't know exactly the word, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. It's been a very temptation-filled month, for better or for worse. And I've grown a lot. Like, I've had a lot of spiritual growth over the past month, but it's also getting to the point to where it's very hard to say no sometimes, to myself and to others. Not necessarily because I can't do it, but because I don't want to hurt the other person. Like, I don't want to make the other person feel bad, even though their intentions may be good. It's just that they're not quite that, They're not quite that like the thing that I'm looking for, the thing that I'm looking to create. And so a lot of the times when you're on this journey, you're going to have to let go of certain people or let go of certain things. And I saw in a comment on another video of mine recently was that learning how to walk away is actually nothing. And I thought that was a very misinformed statement. It was coming from a place of not really knowing what it's like to walk away. And I want to address that really quick, because it's very challenging to walk away. Sometimes walking away from the person that you really care about, even though you know that they're not good for you, is going to be the hardest thing that you ever have to do. I know it was for me. It was for me. It was not fun to walk away. And I've known other people that have had to walk away from other people that they knew was wrong for them, but they knew nonetheless that they had to walk away, and they still did it, and it was still like very hard. It's a very challenging situation for us to go through in these times, but on semen retention, you're almost going to have this like natural ability to know whether a spirit that you're communicating with or being around is good for you or not. even just looking into somebody's eyes, I swear, like, even like my spiritual awakening was nearly 5 years ago, but and I had like been able to look into people's eyes and see certain things beforehand, but like I swear, since I've been on semen retention, when I look into people's eyes, I can see their soul so much clearer. And I think it's just because I'm able to purify myself and I'm seeing myself clearer and more pure as well. And so I can see the dirtiness in other people's eyes. When I'm specifically in person, I can't always see it like on a screen, or through like YouTube videos or whatever. I can't always see that, but in person for sure. Especially like just being around their presence and being around people and like people's presence in general, I can feel the kind of spirit they're emanating in that moment. And that's just part of growing in your spirituality as well. But one thing that I do recommend on semen retention is that you do a lot of physical exercise and you make sure that you're reading every day, you're meditating every day, you are doing some kind of creative activity every day, and you are doing as much work as you can in that day, specifically for the men out here. And the reason for that is not to kill yourself with work. Like like today, I usually do like Monday through Friday, I usually do about 14 hours of work in the day. And then on the weekends, it's anywhere between like 8 to 12 hours a day. And the reason for that on the weekend is like sometimes, like if I only want to do 8 hours of work, then I'm only going to do 8 hours of work because I need to actively rest. I don't like resting. I really, really don't like resting, especially because I just don't think that it's part of what God really wants for us. And the reason for that is because in the Bible it says God rests on the seventh day, right? Well, apart from the Sabbath, and even on the Sabbath, like the Sabbath, Jesus says that the Son of Man is even Lord of the Sabbath. So nowhere does it say that we are to rest. And I am not planning to die. I don't plan to give up. So I'm not going to rest. I'm going to do everything I can each day to build myself to the place I want to be. And I highly recommend you do the same thing. What is the alternative? Like what else are we going to do? Is spending time playing Candy Crush really it? Or spending time playing video games really it? And I'm not saying that you can't do those things. Like I'm not saying, like, I'm not hating on people that do those things. I'm just saying, like, is that it? Like, are you really going to put your potential toward that? Is that really what you're going to do? It's up to you. It's up to you. If you want to sit around eating ding dongs and Twinkie Linkies, go for it. I don't know why I said Twinkie Linkies. But man, I don't like Twinkies at all, actually. I haven't had a Twinkie for like over 15 years. But I never liked Twinkies. But if you're going to plan to do those kinds of things, by all means, it's your life. But if you're going to get to a certain point in 10 years and think back on the life and the decisions that you made in those 10 years, is doing those things, is that really, are you going to be looking back on your life in 10 years and think, yep, that was the right thing to do? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't see how it can be. And some people may think that I'm being too hard or too harsh or whatever, or this is like tough love. So be it. This is tough love. Semen retention is like giving yourself tough love to some degree as well, because you're disciplining one of the most hardest, no pun intended, you're disciplining one of the most hardest disciplines to have, which is your sexual discipline. And then specifically as a man, very, very challenging. Very, very challenging because our hormones are specifically between ages of like 18 to 33 when we are at our fullest peak of testosterone. It's going to be very challenging for us to, during that age bracket, to have that kind of discipline. But if you can have that discipline and the younger the better. If you can have that discipline when you're younger, wow, you're going to be living life, I wouldn't say on easy mode, but on king mode. And we'll say that on internal king mode. I don't like saying king. I don't like saying that. I don't think of myself as a king. I think of myself as a internal emperor. And that is highly philosophical and psychological. And I think I don't put labels on myself. That's not something I want to do. But all I do know is that I'm at a point in my life where, because of semen retention, I have more peace of mind, more desexualization of my mind, and more purity in my mind than I ever have. And although the temptations come and go, and sometimes it can get really intense, like where you get the succubus demon attacks and in the dreams and everything like that, it can be very challenging and intense. But for the most part, on the other side, when I finally make it through and break through that temptation or break that soul tie that is holding me back, the freedom is amazing. So with that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you on the Semen Retention Sunday.